Hello, my name is Christine and I run a vintage shop called Prima Treasures on Etsy. Today I wanted to talk to you about something called a Toby Jug. I have three of them sitting here. The one in the middle here is pretty close to what would be considered a classic style of Toby Jug. And essentially what a Toby Jug is it's a vessel made of pottery, and the history on it is kind of fuzzy. They think they started making these in the 1700s. There's various theories about how it got the name Toby, including one that was based on a Shakespeare character. But essentially what you would typically see is you'd have what they call a jovial man sitting on a stump holding beer, and he would often have this kind of tri-corner hat. So this Toby Jug right here in the middle is pretty typical of what you would expect in a Toby Jug, and the handle would be coming off the back. So you can see that that's where the handle is here. And then I also have a couple of other examples that are kind of in the same family. This one here is made of brass, so it's not a pottery piece at all, but you can kind of see that the styling is pretty similar. Another sort of catch-all in this category is basically famous character heads as a jug, and so that's how you end up in this situation. Although at this point I think a lot of the quote famous heads that were depicted are not really famous people that we recognize currently. At least, I mean, I haven't seen a lot of them that I actually knew who the head was. So they could be more traditional famous heads of historical figures and stuff like that. And then I brought this one out because I just think it's kind of interesting, and it does seem to be in the same or similar form, but it's a Native American chief, and it doesn't really have any helpful markings to tell us if it's a specific chief, unless you want to consider this little partial mark here that just says Starved Rock. Don't really know what that means. But then underneath it's just made in Japan, so it may just be a knockoff of something that's more famous. Again, hard to say, but the thing I find interesting about these is they may have been collectible at one point. I don't really think they're so much collectible now, but there seems to be a good number of them floating around out there, and the cost is typically not very expensive. So if you want something kind of unusual and yet that has a bit of a history to it for your man cave or bar, getting a piece like this could be a cool accent piece with a little bit of history behind it, but also not going to break your wallet. So I would be surprised if you had to pay more than $20 for something like this that you might find out in the wild. So anyway, I just want to get a quick overview of these Toby Jugs because, as I say, there actually is a decent number of them floating around out there, and they do have their own little story that goes with them. So if you see something like this and you know someone who's got a man cave or bar, it can't hurt to pick one up and give it a new home. I hope you learned something today, and I appreciate you watching.